So Enlisted has given us their latest update, the Burma update, and I do think there are a lot of good things, bad things that Enlisted has added in this update. More so on the good things. So that's great. That said, without further ado, let's get into the video because there's nothing much we can really talk about except for the good and the bad. And while we're at it, let's start with the good. Some of the things I really like is the addition of a lot of new weapons, such as the Super Pershing, the Hide, and while we're at it, we also have the Chi-Ri and the Tay-4, not to mention, of course, the MG42-100. This is some of the things I really like and I really do enjoy. That said, another good thing was the maps. I really got to enjoy the map, which is the Burma map, and I really think is a precursor to a lot of Pacific and hopefully European maps. More so, I do think Enlisted needs to add more Pacific maps, because if you haven't figured out by now, there are only two Pacific maps, Guadalcanal and, well, essentially Burma, both of which are pretty interesting and lackluster at the same time. That's it. Another thing that I really liked and was the addition of the way that you can drop your bombs or fire your rockets. In this update, you got the chance to essentially drop your bombs with each individual bomb, so that's great, and I do like this update in the sense that you can essentially drop your bombs individually, and instead you have to drop them all at once, which is not fun, especially for me because I like to make my bombs and rockets count. Moving on to the things I don't like. Some of the minor things I don't like for this update is the fact that the Americans got the RPZ B-43. This is essentially a German weapon given to the Americans. And besides that, in terms of the weapon additions, there's nothing pretty much wrong. I do have a little gripe about the premium squads, i.e. the M26 T99. I do think it's eventually going to be a balancing issue, but at the same time, the price of it is already talking for itself, so that's good. Another issue, I think it was a great addition, going back a little few steps, was the fact that the Chinese are officially being added with the Thompson 7.63, which is a good squad, and I do think this is one of the best squad at Tier 2 for Enlisted. That said, there is an issue of them, mainly of the fact that I was fully expecting them to be a full event squad, or a squad that you can essentially buy with gold, and or, most importantly, I thought they were going to be another event squad with the Chinese, because apparently right now, you only have one Chinese squad, and the issue with that is the fact that, well, you could have added a lot more. Moving on to what I think of the weapons right now. In terms of the weapons, I also don't like the T-24. This is an American machine gun. That's the MG42, and it's chambered in 7.62, which is great, except for the fact that the Germans have the MG42 and the Americans are getting another MG42 as a premium squad. It's not the end of the world, but essentially it makes Enlisted seem as if they can't give the Americans any other machine gun, which is false, so that's that. In terms of what I don't like about this update in general is that it doesn't solve some of the key issues. For example, one of them is the fact that customization is still overpriced, in which I'll put a video about that soon. I also do think that the customization for the vehicles hasn't come out yet, which is a little bit surprising. Yes, there is a customization for the vehicles. The issue is the fact that the customization costs an arm and a leg, quite literally. And while we're at it, I do think overall this is a great update. There has to be a lot of new changes. For example, the player count. Enlisted really needs to get the player count up, because in some games it feels like there's a lot of players, in other games it feels like there are no players. And when I mean player count, I also am going to be including players that come in to play the game regularly, like War Thunder. But right now, it feels like every time there is an event or update, that's when players come in, and it feels pretty boring while you're not. Another thing I think Enlisted should consider is the customization of loadouts. That is pretty much something very important for the game in general. I do think Enlisted needs to give us customized loadouts for various different planes. For example, you can switch out more bombs instead of H-bars for the P-47 and whatnot. So that's that. Overall, I do think this is a very good update. There are once again a few issues that needs to be added. And while we're at it, I also would like to thank the Enlisted creators and Enlisted devs and all for giving us a wonderful update. It is once again not a lot of times in which you see Enlisted getting a pretty dang good update, but I was actually hoping for a better update, in the sense that I do think that this was a great update, but I also think that Enlisted could have just gone literally 2 inches a little bit further and would have been a great update. One example of this is for the event. They should give us something like another Chinese squad for an event, which, if you ask me, I would have enjoyed more. So that's that. Overall, this is all it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord. I'll see you in the next one.